Star Wars: The Adventures of Serian Kall. The First Steps. Chapter 7. The remains of the old warehouse remain charred, embers and flames, smoke billowing and metal still groaning and screeching under pressure. Buried underneath the rubble lay both Serian Kall and Kaiser Cersei, unconscious and wounded, invisible to the rest of the world. As the moments passed on, they began to stir, until finally, with a violent gasp for air, Serian jumped back to his senses, straining as he felt his legs being pinned down by sharp, jagged pieces of metal thrusting into him. He winced and grunted in pain, still desperately trying to pull himself free, before his energy gave way to pain. Beginning to hyperventilate under the stress, Serian attempted to force his composure back into effect, closing his eyes, attempting to ignore the pain for whatever it was worth, reaching into the pool of the Force's energy, attempting to draw from it what he could provide. Slowly, the metal began to shift, pulling from his legs before once more shifting and dropping back into him, pinning him back down as he shouted in pain. He tried once more, only to little avail, managing a slight shift in the metal as he cursed his vile delayed connection under his breath. And that was when the panic began to set in, wrapping its coils around his heart, whispering venomized doubts into his head. "You are not strong enough. You will never be strong enough. You're going to die here. Kaiser will die here. Because of you. Because you were not strong enough. Because you were nothing." Serian gasped, tears welling in his eyes, both of pain and regret, as he whispered to himself, turning his head to see Kaiser laying unconscious mere feet away, equally trapped under rubble, not moving. Kaiser, please hear me. I can't lift it. Master, please. Serian finally gave way of exhaustion, giving way to his fears as he collapsed into anguish. All he had done, all the training, the missions, the investigation, it had all led to this. A pitiful ending. An ending of failure. A murderer on the loose, a city in chaos, and an unresolved mystery, yet lingering. And here he lay, a sobbing mess, awaiting his death, soon to come.
Serian? Kaiser?
Serian's eyes looked up, darting around at the sound of the familiar voice. And suddenly, the sounds of blaster fire began to ring out. "Alina?" The shadow of a humanoid figure slowly retreated into Serian's line of sight, revealing Alina Kira, who ducked down beside Serian, aiming her blaster towards a target Serian could not see from his position.
Hang on, Jedi. We're in a bit of a situation.
"Clearly. What's happening?"
Some mercenaries showed up with blasters, probably to finish you two off.
Alina explained, firing multiple more shots from her blaster as Serian made out the distant resonance of someone's dying scream fading away. Another blaster bolt whizzed past Alina's ear, slicing into some of the debris beside her.
I'm gonna need some help here.
I can't lift it, Serian groaned, still straining as he physically tried to maneuver himself free.
Well, use your force sorcery and lift it.
Alina retorted, eyeing Kaiser's unconscious body before returning to look back at Serian. I can't. I'm too weak. I knew it. I knew I couldn't do this. I never should have come here. I should have never chosen to be a Jedi. I'm a failure. I'll never be a knight. I'll never be...
Hey, look at me.
Alina shot back, eyeing Serian as he locked his eyes with hers, before he felt her hand slap him across the face.
Listen up, Jedi. I get you're waging a war with fear right now, but do you want to know something? Everyone's afraid right now. I'm afraid. I'm getting shot at. But right now, I'm going to stand my ground and get you out of here. Because I'm what's protecting you, and you are what's going to protect this planet. All those kids who lie in bed terrified right now, you are their protection. And to be that, I need you to fight.
Serian took a deep breath. She was right. People were dying. The killer was still out there. Their mission was not yet complete. He calmed his breath. Alina's motivational words invigorating his strength. Closing his eyes, he reached out. Master Serian had put him to take charge of this mission. Here and now, it was time for him to take charge of himself. Slowly, the debris wobbled and shifted, the metal grinding against itself. Serian strained, but remained focused. The sounds of Blastifire so close rang through his ears. Such in this moment was merely a distraction. It had to be. The force that flowed through his body spewed and hesitated, as if water colliding against a dam, trickles leaking through slowly, gradually eroding away at the blockage. The debris slowly began to lift, bending and breaking away. In the following moments, Serian felt his legs go free, pulling himself out and away from the wreckage just beside Alina, before using the rest of his strength to push the debris away. His legs were cut and bled out, the cloth of his robes now soaked red around his legs. He winced in pain, forcing himself to stand as he drew his lightsaber, moving next to Alina as he finally got a visual glimpse of the now retreating mercenaries. A weakway, dressed in black torn leather, surrounded by two Rhodians wielding blaster pistols. Behind them, in a nearby speeder, holding an empty rocket launcher, Serian recognized and hearing his voice knew who it was. Let's go! Let's go! We gotta get moving! Zahul.
We have to go after him. Can you walk?
Not really, Serian admitted, straining as he tried to take a step. Alina nodded, placing her blaster back in her holster before wrapping her arm around Serian.
We go together.
What about Kaiser? Serian asked, turning back to see his unconscious friend. For a moment, Alina hesitated before shaking her head.
We're gonna have to leave her. Zahul's getting away.
Nodding to the now departed speeder, Serian hesitated before accepting the situation. Kaiser would have to find the strength to rise on her own, at least until they could get back to her. There was too much at stake, and Serian knew well enough to know that Kaiser would have done the same in his position. Okay, let's go. The two made their way over to where Alina had parked her speeder, only a few feet away, as she activated the machine and quickly pursued after Zahul, as Serian collapsed into the co-pilot seat beside her. The chase was on. The two speeders began to pick up speed, Serian and Alina gaining on Zahul swiftly. It was something, though not much. Between Serian lifting himself free and dragging himself over to Alina's speeder in a heap, Zahul had been given plenty of time to gain an upper hand. To lose him was to lose vital knowledge and finally figuring out the mystery that was this case. Alina pushed the speeder's throttle forward, thrusting the engines in a violent jolt. Zahul's speeder grew closer, before aggressively turning right into a tunnelway further into the level's layers. Alina quickly copied the movement, the speeder shifting and nudged against the side of the stone wall, sparks screeching and flying as the machine refocused on its course. The two speeders ducked and weaved through the tunnel system, as Alina tried to keep up with her opponent. Suddenly, blaster bolts began to whiz towards the speeder, one nearly slicing Alina's ear and chipping against the rockway. Serian looked up from his seat to see two of Zahul's goons in the back of their transport, holding blaster pistols and firing shots at their pursuers. Alina pulled her blaster out, attempting to take returning shots back but being cut off by another sharp turn within the Rockway Valley.
I could use some help here.
Serian groaned quietly, shifting himself upwards in his seat. Even now that he was free, he was still in egregious pain, still bleeding out from several cuts across his body and his legs, while his head grew light. Still, though, he forced himself to fight through the pain, pulling his lightsaber from his belt and pulling himself up to his feet, igniting the sapphire blade as he aimed his stance, anticipating the incoming attacks. More blaster bolts fired towards the speeder as Serian moved to deflect them, redirecting a few of them back towards the castle. One lucky bolt fired from one of Aurelian shot straight towards Serian, who struck his blade like a bat against the blast, causing it to ricochet back into a straight line and straight through the chest of that same Rhodian. The other gunman, the Weakway, fired his blaster into a loose set of stones, causing them to fall into Alina's path, forcing her to swerve and spiral out of the way.
Hang on.
She shouted, trying to get the speeder back on course. In her chaos, she threw her blaster pistol at Serian.
Here, fight back.
Serian grabbed the blaster pistol as he put away his lightsaber. He sighed briefly before aiming the weapon towards the retreating speeder. So uncivilized. Serian fired several shots, striking the metal hull of the speeder a few times, but nothing serious. Closing his eyes, Serian opened his mind, receiving a signal from the Force as he aimed his next shot, and fired. Reopening his eyes, he saw that his shot had struck against one of Zahol's engines, causing the speeder to shift out of control as fire and smoke protruded from the back. "Now's our chance, go!" Serian shouted. Alina hit the thrusters, forcing them back on course, ramming straight towards the back of Zahol's speeder. Serian used the strike to get to his feet, jumping from Alina's speeder and into the back of Zahol's. As he did, he kicked the Weakways unconscious with his foot, using the leverage to fall into a front flip and land on top of the Rhodian piloting the speeder, smashing his face against the controls before instantly throwing out his hands and smacking the blaster pistol Zahol had in his hands to the ground. Serian then grabbed the controls, halting the speeder in place as Alina stopped her own right behind him. Serian turned to Zahol, unhooking his lightsaber from his belt and holding it to Zahol's face. Alina got out from her speeder and rushed toward Zahol, grabbing her blaster back from Serian as she did, before holding it to Zahol's face as well. Zahol, in a panic, held his hands up as he looked between the two figures. "Kira? Cut the pleasantry, Zahol, and look at me," Serian growled, tightening his grip on his lightsaber. "You are at our mercy, and you are going to tell us everything." Only a few minutes later had Zahol been tied up to his speeder, along with the remaining goons, as Serian and Alina stood before them. Alina had found a first aid kit, which had been packed within her speeder, and had managed to patch some of Serian's injuries. His muscles still ached and pierced with sharp pains, but at the very least they were able to stop the bleeding from his various cuts. Now both store down Zahol, their eyes glazed with intense focus and anger.
Start talking.
Alina demanded. Zahol looked at both the Jedi and his former employee for a moment, a nervous grin forming upon his face. "Whatever do you mean?" Zahol was quickly silenced by a crack across his jaw from Alina's fist.
You know damn well what.
Elena Thorne, Governor Frickett, Project Silencer. Why did you run? All of it. Zahol's eyes darted between the two, considering his situation and the options at hand. He was at the Jedi's mercy for now, but that could soon change on a dime. And with the murderer on the loose, his life was forfeit to the future. Any power he may have held was now redundant. Okay. I know what's going on. Spill it. I escaped Utapau after getting on the bad side of the huts and having a death mark put on my head. My group and I, we build weapons of the highest destructive output. Till we made the wrong enemies and we lost everything. When we came here, Pau City was in ruin. Poverty-stricken streets, lackluster resources, the death toll unfathomable. Frickett and his DA found me and told me what I could do for them. And eventually, we struck a deal. Frickett loaned me a big sum. Me and my boys started building these weapons while our occupation was masked under the label of a mining operation. Frickett started selling all these weapons to buyers all across the galaxy. Huts, Black Sun, Death Watch, you name them, he sold to them. Pow City not only survived, but started to thrive, and we all got rich. That's when Elena Thorne found out about your little secret. That's why you killed her. Zahul sighed a weary breath, his eyes folding down to the ground. We were about to make a breakthrough achievement. Project Silencer was going to be the weapon to end all weapons, what would secure all of our freedoms. Then came this Elena girl, and she threatened to expose her report to the entire Senate, which would have had the Republic crack down on all of us. Pow City would have spiraled back into collapse, and Frickett wouldn't let that happen. He gave Albus the order, and he gave it to me. Project Silencer. What was it? Was? It's a bioweapon. It releases a toxin. It appears near invisible to the eye, just a speck in the wind, and spreads fast and silent. You could take a whole city down in a day and chalk it up to a pandemic. What would our killer want with all of this? To be honest with you, Jedi, it beats me. I don't know who Frickett or Albus's killer is. Maybe the Hutt's trying to get to me, maybe the family of that Elena girl. Honestly, I don't know.
You said this Project Silencer is still around. Where is it?
On the surface level, above the sinkhole, several miles away.
Show us.
Zahol reluctantly nodded as Alina removed his bonds and manhandled him into his speeder before punching him unconscious as she and Serian took to the front seats and began to drive. There was a long silence which then insinuated. Miles went by without a word. So many revelations, so many truths now revealed. Even more thoughts and debates about the morality lingered on in both their minds. Finally, after far too long of a painstaking silence, did Alina speak back up.
Hey, you alright?
I'm fine. Sore. In pain. Probably cracked a rib or two, but otherwise fine.
I'm referring more so to your little panic attack back there.
That, Siren pondered, remaining awkwardly entranced for a moment before speaking. I thought I was gonna die. I couldn't lift the rubble, and I saw Kaisa laying there, and it was just as I always feared. My abilities wouldn't be enough, and people would get hurt because of it.
But they didn't. You lifted the rubble and we got Zahol. You are a nut. Well, maybe the fear you have is a self-conscious inhibitor.
Obviously, my fear is self-conscious.
No, but think about it like this. Think about it like the perpetual cycle we talked about earlier. Fear of your own weakness led to your weakness being led by fear. But when the cards were down and it came down to life and death, you were able to overcome that fear. Then you are strong enough to save yourself. That's how to break the cycle.
You say that like it's easy to just do over again. I've been a Jedi for my entire life, and not one master has managed to help me cure my weakness, not even Master Saren.
I think me, your master, Kaisa, the Jedi, we can only guide you through the problem, but the only one who can find the solution is you.
Siren took a long pause upon hearing that, before turning and looking Alina dead in the eyes. Why did you come back to help us? I thought you were so quick to be done once you finished your part. Alina remained quiet, biting her lip as she tried to find the proper words to explain herself. After a long, deep breath, she started to talk.
You asked me why I chose to help you. I told you it was for the right price, and that much was true. If I'm being fully honest, setting aside my frustrations with the Jedi as a whole, in you and Tyza, I saw a second chance. I've been on my own since I was 16. The only people I've known or interacted with were thugs and scumbags like Zahol. And I started to get eloped into that kind of life. When you showed up, you treated me like someone who could change. I walked out on you out of fear. But leaving, I realized just how selfish that was to think, and I didn't want to lose that chance to be better.
Siren looked at his new companion for a long pause, fixed on her words. Everything remained still as the two locked eyes in an intent gaze, before Siren spoke up. You didn't. Alina's expression turned to a sweet, warm smile, lightly holding out her open hand as Siren took it in his, gently squeezing it as he returned the smile. The two remained quiet for only a few more minutes as they made their way up outside towards the sinkhole, piloting their way up to the top surface of the planet. As they drove, Siren couldn't help but admire the desolate terrain that coated such a place. It was intriguing imagery. The fact that so many layers remained masked underneath such a simple-seeming land. As they rode, Siren watched on at the various animals that roamed around. Varactals, Jamel, and Dactylian alike. Their existence remaining so peaceful, coexistent. Though all they had witnessed on this planet, it was a nice change of pace. Alina turned to the back of the speeder, shaking Zahol awake as he groaned and sputtered.
Wake up, idiot. We're here. Show us where the silencer weapon is.
Ugh, the weapon, it is 4 clicks away to your northeast. There's about a dozen workers still building it, and an equal amount of guards.
Great! Now shut up.
Ugh. Did you have to hit me so hard?
Yeah, I really did.
If you were one with your blaster the way you were with words, you would have been my best soldier, not wasting away serving drinks. Alina growled as Siren put a hand on her shoulder. Let's take down that silencer weapon first.
If he keeps blabbering, can I throw him down the sinkhole before we're done?
You know it's not the Jedi way to kill an unarmed opponent.
Fine, I'll plant the loaded blaster on him when I do it.
Deal. After a decently long travel, the team soon spotted a large metal object not far in the distance, with several construction devices surrounding it. Set it down over there, Siren said, pointing to a small ridge a few feet away from the structure. Alina complied and proceeded to move the speeder in that direction before landing the craft just out of anybody's sight. Once on the ground, she and Siren got out of the speeder, dragging Zahol out with them. Moving past the ridge, the three soon made their way towards a massive construction site, littered with just over a dozen humanoids and labor droids tending to this device, which now appeared even larger in scope to the average perception, perhaps just smaller to the size of a small starfighter. Acknowledging the trio's approach, the workers began to turn and stare at their arrivals. Upon seeing Siren, a Jedi, a few began to draw their blasters, before Zahol stepped forward to face his workers. Stand down, boys. We're all on the same side. What's with the Jedi, Khan? What mischief have you fallen into this time? A Rhodian worker scowled. Zahol held his hands up in a manner, pleading for a chance to speak. There has been a change of plans, Zahol explained, his eyes growing guilty as he spoke his piece. Your game is finished. Lom Frickett and Maroon Albus are dead. The fate of Elena Thorne has been exposed, as has you and Zahol's projects. There is someone very dangerous on this planet who did all of this, and they are coming for you right now. You need to come with us. And what are we supposed to do? A Duros man then asked. We've already built the weapon. The shareholders are getting antsy as is. With what has already transpired, the shareholders will be the least of your concerns. And what exactly are we dealing with? The Duros asked. In that moment, Serian began to feel a slight shift in the Force's aura. A faint chill that coiled around his spine, cramping against his chest. They're here. Everyone began to look around in all directions, as everything became quiet. Suddenly, the silence was broken by the sound of a haggard wrench. Serian turned to his side, his eyes widening as he saw Zahul begin to levitate in the air, clutching at his throat as he gagged and occluded for air. Everyone became frantic as Zahul's neck then abruptly snapped, his now lifeless corpse dropping to the ground in a heap. Serian turned to his right, his body proceeding to tremble. Only a few feet away from them stood the Tukrut, wearing war-torn leather gear, metal gauntlets, their face concealed by a mask and goggles. Their hand extended out in a strangulating position. In their presence, a haunting quiet echoed, as if once a burning engine had since gone cold. As they spoke, their voice was modulated into a fear-striking
What a worthless pig.
The workers all began to scramble in panic, a few of them drawing blasters, before they were violently thrown back into the air and smashed against the metal hull of the weapon before dropping dead in a second. The figure slowly began to approach Serian and Elena. Stand down, Serian commanded, his voice quivering as he did. The figure did not stop their approach.
You heard him. Stand down.
Elena shouted, drawing her blaster and training it on the killer. There were no pause in the figure's movements. After a few more steps, Elena furrowed her brow as she fired a shot at their attacker. The figure merely tilted their head, flicking their wrist as the bolt sizzled and warped over to the side, just past its intended target, before they pushed their palm forward, sending Elena back with a shove of energy. In that moment did Serian ignite his lightning, readying himself in his stand.